Hey everybody, welcome back. Are you facing a back or spine or other range of motion type of claim? Specifically, we're going to talk about back today. We're going to walk through a C&P exam and a DBQ. Stand by. Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about going to a C&P exam and getting your claim processed for back and spine injuries and or conditions. And I want to be real clear with you. I am not going to cover what it takes to get a specific rating. I am going to cover the actual C&P exam, and we're going to talk about the DBQ. And I've got the DBQ on a device down here that I can look at, so I can kind of walk you through it and prepare you for it in case you're facing it and you're just wondering what it's going to be like. Hey, before we get into it, please like, share, subscribe, watch the video to the end. All those things help get the word out to more and more veterans. You could be helping another veteran by doing all those things because they may get it popped up on their YouTube feed and help them see this video. All right, so let's talk about a C&P exam for back. One of the big things that they do at C&P exams for back or for, other limbs, but I want to talk specifically about back, is they have this goniometer. This goniometer rate is a measure of range of motion. If you can move your back that far, that means that you've done 25 degrees. If you can go that way, you're at, a total 90. If you can get straight to here, you're 45. If you can get, there's all kinds of stuff. This thing is used extensively. If you want one, they're only a few bucks on Amazon. My suggestion is if you're having back problems and you want to know exactly what you're looking at, you can grab one of those and just have it on hand at home. Check your range of motion. You can use it for more than just your back. They're going to use this at the C&P exam. Just be prepared for that. They're going to grab one of these suckers and they're going to measure how far you can move down. And, then you've got to display how bad the back is. Okay, so let's talk about walking into the C&P exam. If you have back problems, unless you're in serious pain and unless it truly is happening, don't walk in holding your back and aching in pain unless you are in that level of pain at that moment. You probably don't want to be seen as over exaggerating. I'm just letting you know from experience. Okay. So you're going to walk into the C&P exam. They're going to ask you how you're doing today. They are going to be observing you. From the minute that you get out of your vehicle or your ride or however you got there, to the minute you walked in the building, to the minute you walked into the office, to the minute you sat down, stood up, everything that has to do with your range of motion for your back, they're watching. From minute to minute, right? Beginning to end. Until you're back home in your house, they're watching. That's kind of how I look at it. Maybe it's not true. Maybe they're only watching once you go back with the doctor, but I am taking every precaution to make sure that I completely am not making it seem like I'm hurt less than I really am. And I think veterans do that a lot. I think we do it out of pride. I think we do it out of learned behavior. Don't be a sick call Sally all the time. That's just kind of how it works. So you walk in, you get greeted at the C&P exam area, you check in, and you have a decision to make whether you sit in a chair and wait or you stand up and wait. And I think that depends on, how bad your back really is, quite honestly. When I sit down and when I stand up, there are times where it is so hard for me to do that it takes me probably 30, 40 seconds just to stand up, 30, 40 seconds just to sit down. This is my condition, right? It's not all the time. If I'm at a doctor's appointment and I'm at a C&P exam and they say, hey, how does this affect your life? That's what I'm going to tell them. Listen, There's times where I can't sit very long. I have to have a sit-stand desk. I've got to ask for a sit-stand desk at work because I can't just have one at home. When I go to work, I need to stand up half the time. And if I can't see the screen, what's the point going to work? Because I work on my computer all day long. So, they're going to ask you all those questions. We're going to walk through the DBQ now because the DBQ is going to explain everything out past the measurement. When you go in, you get your measurement done, they're going to say lean forward. And you're going to lean forward as far as you can. At the hips, lean forward, right? They're going to ask you to lean back. They're going to ask you to lean side to side. They're going to ask you to twist both directions. That's how they're going to do the DBQ exam, the physical exam. But on the DBQ, or C&P exam, sorry, my brain is jumbled today. But there are things on the DBQ you need to know about. So let's cover those real quick. So there's all the normal junk at the top of this DBQ, which you can find at the VA website. I'm going to put a link. I'll put a link for the back DBQ in the comments below, or in the description below. So check the description so that you can get that link directly to the DBQ. It'll be a PDF document. You click on the link, it'll pop up on your screen. Good to go. So you do all the normal, hey, who's this person? Why are they here? Have you looked at their medical records, et cetera? And then it says, these are the diagnoses determined during this current evaluation. I'm not going to read them all, but I'm going to read a couple of them. Degenerative arthritis, degenerative disc disease other than IVDS, lumbosacral strain, intervertebral disc syndrome for, IVDS. Let's see, segmental instability, spinal fusion, vertebral fracture. Okay, so there's a bunch of different diagnoses. The key here is knowing what your diagnosis is. What is your diagnosis? Do you have the ICD code? And what day? When did you get that diagnosis, right? How can you prove it going back to your service? When did this back pain start? Well, it started back in 1992 when I was doing this activity. I was in the service. After I was done, I was in so much pain I had to go to sick call. They sent me home with over the counter, told me just to rest. They put me on 72 hours of rest. Since then, I've been to, a couple doctors telling me about the pain. They all tell me the same thing, use over-the-counter drugs to, address the pain. So I stopped going to see the doctor because they keep telling me just to use stuff I can go buy at Walgreens. All right, listen, I get it, right? I've been there. Obviously, I've been there because that's kind of very specific to understand that. But you need to lay that out. You need to tell them all of this. Tell them the whole thing at the C&P exam. All right, so they're going to ask you your medical history. Just describe the history, including the onset and course of your back condition over time. If you had this back condition prior to when you went into service, don't bother filing for it, okay? Just don't. Unless it got worse in service. If it's the same as it was before you went in service, don't bother, okay? If it's gotten worse since you went in the service, then you have an aggravation claim. That's good. So, do you report flare-ups of the back condition? Yes. How do you report them? Who do you report them to? Okay, if you're not actively going to see a doctor, I mean actively like once or twice a year, realistically. You can go more than that, and that will not hurt your claim any, but once or twice a year is the bare minimum. So are you reporting the flare-ups? Yes or no? Do you report any functional loss or functional impairment of the joint being evaluated, including but not limited to repeated use over time? This is really important. If your back flares up, but it only flares up after you've been out walking for 35, 40 minutes, and then it gets worse and worse and worse after that, and you've already got it service connected, that means that's connected. That is how this is onset. That's functional loss. For me, functional loss and occupational loss is that I cannot sit in my chair for 8 hours straight, like my job expects me to do. So I have to stand up. I have to get up. I have to walk around. I've got to stretch. I've got to take breaks. And when you are in meetings all day long, which a lot of my days include a lot of meetings, which is why I film on the weekends and at nights, man, it's hard sometimes. Sometimes you just got to stand up and take it, you know? So very difficult. Okay. So then they get into range of motion and functional limitation. They will do all those range of motion measurements. You know, you're here, you're here, you're here, you're here. You've gone sideways this much, 2 degrees, 3 degrees, 20 degrees, all of that, right? If it's outside of normal range, but it's normal for the veteran, please describe, right? Outside of normal range, because they have a normal range of motion that they're going to judge you on. I don't have those numbers, but I think you're supposed to be able to get to 60 or 80 or 90 or whatever. If it's out of range, why? But if it's normal for the veteran to be out of range, why? This is where you connect it back to your service incident. All right, well, ever since I, was loading trucks, or I was doing this, or I was doing that, or I was organizing storerooms, or I was, going on 20-mile rucks or whatever, right? You just pick whatever your condition was caused by. Ever since then, I have been limited to blank, and I've just lived with it. So this is normal for me now. Okay, but it's still out of range of motion. It's not normal, but it's normal for you. So make sure you keep that in mind. Does the range of motion itself contribute to a functional loss? Does this hurt you occupationally? Does this hurt you socially? Can you not go out and do the things you used to do? Can you not work out all the time because your back hurts when you work out, etc.? That is the stuff you need to be done. So they're going to provide a whole bunch of other tests. They're going to get all these range of motion values entered. And then they're going to say, hey, if the limitation of motion is specifically attributable to pain, weakness, fatigue, incoordination, or other, please note the degrees in which a limitation of motion is specifically attributable. So they're looking for, not only can you do your leaning and you're going to side, but does it get worse over time? Does it get, does it attribute to falling over? They're looking for all these outbound symptoms. They're going to look at weight bearing. Is it weight bearing or not weight bearing? Does it differ when you're sitting versus when you're standing, etc. So you are going to face all of these fun things, and I'm just looking through the rest of my notes to make sure I didn't miss anything here. They're going to ask you about your flare-up. Okay, what happens when it flares up? What is all of this like? Were you examined during a flare-up? Man, I wish we could all get examined during flare-ups, because that's when they're the worst. But they're going to take all that into consideration. Then they're going to talk about guarding and muscle spasms. Do you have localized tenderness, guarding, muscle spasms of your spine? Where? What is that like? And then additional factors contributing to disability. I'm just going to read these check marks. Interference with sitting, interference with standing, swelling, deformity, disturbance of locomotion, less movement than normal, more movement than normal, weakened movement, atrophy, instability, other. There is the key to your success. You need to understand that they're going to ask you these things. You need to answer them honestly, but correctly, right? How does this interfere with you sitting? My back interferes with me sitting because I can't sit for long extended periods of time. I also can't stand for long periods of time because I start to get I forget what it's called. I get numbness in my legs, neuropathy. I get neuropathy in my legs if I just stand for too long. If I'm walking, it's not quite as bad because I'm still moving around, but if I stand for a long time, or casual walk, like you're walking around the grocery store and you're only moving, a little bit and then stopping and then moving a little bit and then stopping, man, I have a hard time in grocery stores. So Those are the things that they're going to talk about. They're going to ask if you have muscle atrophy, which means you can't use it. They're going to look into all of those things. And then, quite honestly, there's a whole bunch of other stuff in here that's specific to each condition, but I will let you read those. That's what to expect from your back condition C&P exam. And a quick look at the DBQ. Again, the DBQ will be down in the description. Feel free to click on that, read the whole thing. It'll put you to sleep. Really exciting stuff. And pick one of these up. See where your range of motion really is at. My ask is that you be completely honest with the people that are giving you your C&P exam. If not, and they find out that, later on that you don't have this problem, just look around at all the fraud cases that have been going on recently. So don't be one of those, okay? All right. Thanks, y'all. Thanks for watching. Take care of one another. See ya.